Hi, Lara. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing good, thank you. Happy Thursday. It is Thursday.
It's wild. Sometimes I've people say, "How's your Thursday going?" I'm like, "Wow, the days just all melt together."
Yes, end of week already.
Yes, exactly.
So how's the weather there?
Uh, well, today is quite pleasant. Being a meteorologist, I'm always looking out my window and at the weather. And I have to say, for the end of August, for temperatures to be in the upper 60s right now is very, I would say, a bit more rare. And so it's time to take advantage of these cooler temperatures because I'm sure the heat is not over for summer. So, but the weather is cloudy and cooler. So I'll take it. How are things looking there?
It is cooler here too, compared to previous years. I'll say it is still August, even though it's end of August. It is still August, but quite cool and pleasant to be outside.
Yes.
So similar, I guess.
Right, right. It makes us wanna try to be outside while we can because I don't know about, up where you are, Mihai, but it's here in the Mid-Atlantic, it can get quite humid, so it really limits your time to be outside, and then before you know it, falls here and then winter, so, yeah, I just telling all my friends and colleagues, "Get outside while you can."
Yes. And how's the weather question was pun intended, given what you do. So yeah, please, short intro of what you do and who you are, please.
Sure, sure. So for those listening and watching, my name is Lara Pagano. I work for the National Weather Service and I work under the Office of Organizational Excellence. And I'm the Senior Employee Experience Analyst. So really a program manager of sorts. And previously to that, I was a meteorologist. So I always joke with folks that I was born and raised, in the National Weather Service and as a meteorologist. And that's really where my career started. And then I think about like 12 years, 13 years into being a meteorologist, I took a hard right turn and I went into the arena of like human capital services and really focusing in on our workforce and supporting our employees. So I've been enjoying that role for the last 4 years or so. But I am married to another meteorologist, so I'm not getting away from dabbling in forecasting. And him and I have a little bit of a competition sometimes when it comes to forecasting. So I'm staying connected to that career as well.
How did you get into that career? What was your journey like?
Yeah. And I will be honest, meteorologists get this question all the time. And most meteorologists really have very similar stories in that we were really at a young age, something sparked our interest. So for me, it was Hurricane Bob when I lived on Long Island. Hurricane Bob was impacting where we lived. And what made it unique for me was I was 5 years old and I was born legally blind. So I couldn't actually see what was happening, but I could hear what was happening. And that left an impression on me. I didn't like what I was hearing. It was just a lot of noise. It's just a feeling of being unsettled and with a storm like that, and you're so young, it just can seem kind of scary. So I wanted to learn more about it. So I was glued to the Weather Channel. And when I say I was glued to the screen, I really, really was because I couldn't see. I had to get really close to the screen to see anything. And so I watched the Weather Channel growing up. And then finally, I was able to correct my vision. And I was really, really far behind. So when I told my parents, yeah, I want to be a meteorologist one day. I'm pretty sure they were like, oh, okay, yeah, sure.
Makes sense.
We'll see how that turns out. And needless to say, I mean, given that I was born with a disability, I had a lot of ground to cover. And so I spent a lot of time reading, and my parents were amazing in that they supported me. I was hooked on phonics for those who remember back in the 80s and 90s, that program. I was in a lot of special classes to help me get to the point where I could actually apply to NC State. And I graduated very high in my class in high school. and in college. And then I went on to get my master's in atmospheric science as well. And then I entered the National Weather Service. So, long story short, it's sparked by Hurricane Bob. And then I just couldn't get enough of meteorology from that point.
That is Thank you so much for sharing. Very interesting story in my humble opinion. And you have memory from 5 years old.
Yes.
I don't. I'm just trying to think what memory do I remember? Do I have that age? And nothing specific comes to mind. So that says how impactful that whole experience was for you, eh?
Yes. Now that I think on it, I'm trying to think back to my younger years. It tends to be those traumatic experiences that we remember the most, both positive and negative, from childhood. And yeah, that's definitely one of my earliest memories was me standing in the dining room, looking out the window, but not seeing much of anything. But gosh, I heard that wind. And it's just something that sticks with you. And it really shapes, your future and who you become as well.
Then from there, did you have like similar important moment that inspired you to switch gear and get into a different field of profession?
You're absolutely right. I did. And so working in the National Weather Service, I take so much pride in it, honestly, because the
And that
mission,
shows.
yeah, I mean, the mission is an incredible one where we're aiming to save lives and property, enhance the national economy. I thought when I was younger, I said, I want to be a meteorologist so that little girls like me don't have to be afraid. They can be educated and we can warn people of high impact weather. And that's just something that drove me. And then I got into the National Weather Service, spent 12 to 13 years forecasting high impact weather events to help the public, to help our emergency managers make, better life-saving decisions. And that's a huge mission and it's a big purpose that we have in our agency. And honestly, I thought that would kind of keep me driven in that sector of National Weather Service. But I will tell you that going through my career, I moved to different offices in the National Weather Service. So I started my career in Raleigh, North Carolina. There's a weather forecast office in Raleigh, North Carolina. Then there's one in Morehead City, North Carolina. Went out there, went down to Atlanta, worked at that a weather forecast office, spent a little time in Fort Worth, that southern region. Then went up to outside of Washington, D.C., working at the Weather Prediction Center. So moving and forecasting within the National Weather Service at all these different locations, there's something that you start to notice. And that is the different cultures that are embedded with each of the offices. So the National Weather Service has 122 weather forecast offices and then in total, 200 different geographically dispersed offices that are ranging, some focus on river forecasting, some focus on aviation, modeling, all sorts of things. But the ones that were moving to and from, I saw that there were different cultures within each of them. And some of them were healthy cultures, and some of them were not as healthy cultures. And I could feel a difference in my experience and my performance. And so witnessing the employee experience and my own employee experience through moving around made me realize how important it is for us to support the workforce and because the workforce is the one that's helping to meet the mission. They're the ones helping to protect lives and property. So if we aren't fully supporting our workforce and our employees, how can they best show up to work and to do that life-saving type of mission? So I was forecasting, doing my thing, but I started to think, wait a second, my passion was forecasting, but gosh, there was another spark within me that was like, I really do love the idea of becoming more involved in employee advocacy and support. So I got involved in a couple of national, different initiatives and teams that focused on that. And then that was it. I was like, this is it. I wanted to go in that direction So I took a hard right turn. I took a risk going away from what I had known and loved for so long and the skill set
Mm.
that I had developed, and now going into arena that I was less familiar with. I was building a skill set in it, but I was less familiar in terms of, you know, what it really took. I had the passion, I had the interest, but I saw potential in it. And I said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to follow my 4 years in and absolutely loving it.
What an inspiring story. Do you have that 4-year period? I'm sure you have many proud moments, but any particular one that you would like to highlight?
Oh gosh. I first want to say any proud moment that I have could not have been done without my mentors to have gotten me to that point, and then the amazing team around me. So I want to say there are so many proud moments I have, but I'm proud not really just for myself, but for the team, for just the agency as a whole. So I want to preface this by saying it takes a village, as they say. And so when I talk about these different initiatives, I just want folks to know that there's a whole team behind me that helped in getting us there. And so one of my biggest and most proudest moments was when the organizational health blueprint for the National Weather Service was disseminated in our agency. And so what that was essentially was this framework that we built within the National Weather Service that leveraged McKinsey's Organizational Health Index survey. We ran it for several years within our agency, and it took this survey data that we had about our workforce, and then we built it into a framework as in terms of how to create healthy workplace environments no matter what your culture state is within the National Weather Service. So with over 200 offices, one can imagine you have 200 plus cultures that are out there. And there is no one size fits all. But we developed an organizational health blueprint that could be adapted for any culture situation. And so we built this framework, and I was so proud of this thing. It took years for us to make, took mindfulness, intentionality, and strong purpose for us to make sure that we built something that could be malleable to any situation. And when that got published, I want to say it was like January 5th. I think it was 2022. It was a big moment in my career to see something that you put so much heart and soul into that you knew was going to be altering for the better the cultures within the agency. I would say, was one of the proudest moments, and seeing it fully executed a year and a half later, like the whole thing, the execution for the blueprint. It's a document, right? But there's three main steps to this document to execute, and seeing it in its full execution across 200 plus offices, I knew we had built something that was great and likely sustainable. And so that I would say was my proudest moment, was going into a space, not knowing much about organizational health and culture and employee experience, seeing what had previously been done, and then taking that to the next level to help all of our offices and all of our employees in the National Weather Service thrive within healthy workplace environments.
That is, I don't have proper word to, yeah, very inspiring. Man. So how many employees' lives that initiative touched then across 200 plus offices?
Yeah, I would say at the time we were sitting around, I think about 4,300 employees. So it was touching quite a lot of folks. And that's a great point too, in that if you build healthy workplace environments and you are to focus on the employee experience, that bleeds into their personal life as well. And I mean, I think all of us who are listening here today are probably, anybody who is listening and just in general, is that you can And you probably are seeing the work that you're doing day in and day out in your career. Sometimes it can just flow into your personal life. And so if you are being supported, you feel as an employee you are supported and valued and appreciated, boy, that's going to just be kind of this relief in a way, that you get to go into a workplace and be your authentic self, feel psychologically safe to speak, and be supported and have a great employee experience. You're going to feel that even in your personal life. You're not going to, be thinking, oh, I just don't even want to think about work. They call it the Sunday scaries, right? For people who work a more 9 to 5 job, we have shift workers. We have people working all day and all night. So if we can make their employee experience just a bit better for them, then that really helps even in their personal life, because we all know we all have different stressors in our life. And if we can just make sure our employees, while they're with us, within the National Weather Service, they can bring their best self to work, they can be higher performing. And then when they're outside of work, they don't have to worry about work. They know they're supported there and they can focus on other things in their personal life as well.
Totally. The ripple effect, right?
Yes, absolutely.
One thing doesn't just lead to another thing.
Right.
But yes, yes. How do you currently communicate? How do employees across multiple different offices communicate with each other?
It is a great, great question. I'm going to give a big shout out to Slack. That company, we partnered with them and have been using their services now, I think, for over a year. And this has enabled us to have different channels to connect with one another. Now, I will say when I was in the National Weather Service operations and I was at these different weather forecasting offices, we didn't have that capability to connect with other, let's say, shift workers or other people with similar interests or similar skill sets. And so I'm a bit envious of this type of communication that they have today, which I didn't have, but I actually love it because I get to see inside of like how, shift. I think this one of the channels is called Shift Mates. For the shift workers to connect with one another. And especially when they're on midnights. Ugh. Midnights. They can be a drag. It is just great to see them connecting. But we have other ways too, of course, where folks are connected. And it's a bit more organic within, let's say, Google. We use Google. So there's Google platforms within that can keep us all connected as well. So, and of course, there's social media. We have a lot of folks on social media and connecting in different ways like that. We have different ways for us to make sure that we're connecting to one another. And I will say, back when we were working on the organizational health blueprint, we had this amazing network that we built as part of this, which was called the Culture Ambassador Network. And I loved this network, Mihai. I loved it. While I was the chair or led it, or I mean, spearheaded a lot of the network, connection initially, it blossomed into 250 plus culture advocates and change agents together, that were talking about ways that we can improve culture, whether it be in their office, their region, their center, or as an agency as a whole. That was a network that we built within Google using their Google space to stay connected. So that's an example of how, we connected with those that were passionate about culture and employee experience. And we connected and we made a network. We made a space for us to stay tied to one another. So that was something that I absolutely loved see thrive. And I would absolutely recommend it for others who are, whether you're dealing with transformation or culture change or trying to connect with employees. Network. Build those networks. There are people who are passionate about employee experience, culture, organizational health, and you'll see it just thrive. People, as long as this space is safe, and I always say a psychologically safe space is a good space. Then that's how you really connect with employees in that way.
Do you have sources that you consume content from, whether it is websites or events or whatnot to see what other organizations are doing to elevate their employee experience.
Absolutely. Say I carve out about 30 minutes, and if I'm lucky, an hour a day to read up on the latest trends when it comes to organizational health, culture, and employee experience. I have a document, I was just looking at it earlier. It lists out, gosh, maybe 400 different articles, website casts that I've listened to over the last 2, 3, 4 years. And so absolutely 100%. And I was reflecting on this a couple days ago. Like, how did this all get started? Because I now get emails on the daily from different companies and different organizations that are working on these same things, like SHRM. Then we have MIT Sloan, Harvard Business Review, Culture Amp. I mean, there are just so many of them. Line Zero. This is how I was connected to you, and the great work you're doing is think I had initially, and then all of a sudden there's so much free content out there to absorb. So, yes, I work for the federal government. And so we have to be careful with procurement and things like that. But there is a lot of great open source free content out there. And so I am constantly reading. When you start to explore these different companies and organizations and you put yourself on their newsletter feed, then you see that they have webinars and podcasts. Once you start doing that, you're going to start to see this flow of information naturally come to you. And boy, that you are ripe at that point to just absorb as much information as you can, which has absolutely shaped what I do today. So obviously I don't have a bachelor's degree in organizational health culture or employee experience. It was all learned on the job or through the great work that was shared by these different companies. I've read hundreds, probably thousands of pages of articles. I've listened to hours upon hours of webinars and podcasts. And once you start to hear these things and you start to do your own analysis of a lot of these trends and data, you're like, this is applicable to anywhere. This is applicable to the National Weather Service. This data is applicable to NOAA and to public sector, private sector, any company. And so I started to listen everywhere about organizational health, culture, employee experience, what works, what doesn't, and then started to try that out within our own agency. So I delve in a bit deeper than I intended there, but yeah, any company really that is getting that has promoted or is doing work in organizational health, culture, and employee experience, more than likely I have looked into them or am receiving content from them, and I'm so appreciative to them. I'm absorbing as much as I can.
You touched upon mentor very briefly earlier. Do you have a mentor that you want to give shout out to?
Oh my gosh. There are so many. My gosh. I fear I'm going to leave someone out, but I will say Dave Wirt. He was the meteorologist in charge in Blacksburg, Virginia, weather forecast office out there, and he has since retired. But wow, he set me out on a path that of just pure authenticity. And he was, I would say, the first person where I felt seen by. Like, he was a feeler for anybody who, has taken Myers-Briggs. I think I'm an ISJ, I think is my Myers-Briggs. And so I'm a feeler. And with that, you just don't see many of those in the National Weather Service. You see a lot more thinkers. And Dave Wirt, he was just someone that taught me that anyone can be a leader. Leadership is a role, not a position. You can lead from anywhere. Doesn't matter if it's your first day, you're an intern, doesn't matter mid-career, doesn't matter what position you're in. You don't have to be a meteorologist, hydrologist. You could be an ET, you could be an IT, you could be researcher, developer. Doesn't matter. You can be a leader from anywhere. And you can lead with authenticity. You can lead by being empathetic. And so I just want to say huge thanks to Dave for letting me see someone in a leadership role lead with that empathy. And there, back in the day, servant leadership That was something that they taught, and I know I hear folks say, "Okay, servant leadership is out," and I'm not quite sure yet what's in. What is the new thing, right? But maybe it's empathetic leadership. I don't know, but it's all to me, it's all the same. It's leading from where you are and meeting employees where they are, and he really mentored me and taught me that. And I've had so many other mentors along the way. Stefan Bita, he is someone that's in a leadership role within the National Weather Service, being a supervisor up here in headquarters. He's been an amazing role model, and I've had many, many in between that were just incredible. And there's just so many people that I want to thank that have helped shape where I am today for me to be able to speak to you on this topic. But yeah, I would say Dave really set me on the path, and Stefan Bita has helped me continue on that path and growing as well.
Isn't it such heartwarming thing to talk about people that we have in our lives and their impact on us every time?
I know that's
Warms my heart.
And sometimes I think we sometimes can forget that, right? Because we're so hyper focused on the here and now and the stressors that we may be facing or the challenges that we may be facing. But I would just suggest taking some time to reflect on how far you've come, because sometimes it can feel like you're not making progress or you haven't made progress. Gosh, when you take just simply 5 minutes to reflect on where you were this time last year, where were you 5 years ago, where were you 10? I mean, it just reflecting back, I don't know. I just think I feel so much more rejuvenated after I do that, because sometimes I can just get so stuck, and I just have to give myself perspective, right? I'm like, okay, let's just zoom out here for a second. I may feel stuck right now, but look how far I came, and I will be unstuck. I got to give myself time and grace. And so that's why I do think back to my mentors as often as I can, because now I'm mentoring others. And I will say that through this process of mentoring others, I really honestly call it a mentorship, because when they come to me, so I have a future mentee coming to me and saying, "Hey, Lara, will you be my mentor?" I'm always honored and humbled by the ask, of course, but I tell them, I want you to know this is going to be a mentorship, because I'm going to learn probably just as much from you as you are from me, and we're going to go back and forth, and we are going to help each other grow. Yes, I can give advice on certain things, of course, through my experience that hopefully are some pain points that I experienced that you don't have to experience, but we're going to learn from each other throughout the mentorship. And so I thank the mentors that I've had to that have gotten me to where I am today, for me able to shape others through the mentorship. I have many mentees, and they're quite amazing. I'm always learning from them.
What is next for you?
What is next for me? I don't know. I'm keeping my options open, because honestly, wait, with the shifting priorities, there's just so much opportunity when that happens to get yourself into a new area that maybe you didn't spend a lot of time in. I will tell you, Mie, that I love organizational health culture and employee experience. So more than likely, I'm going to live in that arena for quite some time. Human capital services, I think, is kind of where I'm most passionate about right now. I will tell you, over the last month or two, I've really sunk my teeth into employee recognition, because part of the employee experience, I like to say, it's a journey for employees, right? So you do a journey map for employees, and there are different moments that matter for an employee's journey, right? So the application process, hiring, onboarding, development, training, promotions, all the things, right? But some of these are pain points. So I am constantly thinking, okay, the employee journey, what are those different pain points and how could those be improved? So where I'm going in the future is to look at these in more detail, right? And to identify, okay, For example, employee recognition. That employee recognition, awarding and recognizing employees can really change morale, can really change and enhance the employee experience. So many times I've heard employees come to me saying, you know what, Lara, I just don't feel acknowledged. I don't feel appreciated. I don't feel like, my manager or supervisor really knows all the things I'm doing. I never feel rewarded for the work that I'm doing. And so I have seen this as one of the many pain points employees go through. And this is not unique to the National Weather Service. These moments that matter and pain points that employees go through are very similar in different organizations. They may vary a little bit, but we tend to see the same ones. And so right now, I'm looking at employee recognition and trying to enhance the awards program for our agency. And then hopefully we can look on a more wider scale at the employee journey. That's what I see in my future is like, how can we really start to look at the employee journey for, let's say, National Weather Service workforce and identify those pain points and then make sure that folks have a great onboarding experience and a great leadership development experience and training experience and employee recognition experience. So I think my future, while, it's so funny when someone asks you, where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? Oftentimes it's way different than what we think. But in my mind, where I naturally tend to gravitate is thinking, how can I have a bigger positive impact on the employees of the National Weather Service, reducing those pain points and enhancing their overall experience within our agency. So that's where I see my future.
You are so inspiring. You're so inspirational. Thank you.
Well, no,
Thank you
thank
for
you. I
all the
appreciate.
stories you shared today.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. When we did our call a few weeks ago and today as well, so evident the passion that you have, not just for your career, but just life in general. It just shows. And I really admire that and appreciate that and just love seeing another professional, another woman living or the best version of herself that just very fulfilling. So thank you.
Well, thank you for letting me share it. There's so much good in this world. I know we are constantly surrounded by hardship and we're seeing the hardship and maybe negativity. But there's so much good in the world and we're all humans, right? And we need to just connect and remember that we're all just people. We're all just trying to get through, these different hardships in our life, or maybe there's times when things are going great, but we're all in it together. We're all human. We all kind of need the same things in life. And so I just try to remember that. I try to embody that and just let folks know that they are supported and just be that genuine person to help really support others.
Thank you for being you, Lara.
Thank you. Thank
You
you.
brightened my day once again.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate the time and for asking about, my experiences and my life. I struggle to talk a bit about me. So when you invited me onto this podcast, so I normally listen. I do a lot more listening than I do speaking. So I appreciate you letting me open up and share my story. It means a lot to me.
You're very welcome. Thank you once again. And until next time.
Until next time. Bye bye.